Hello there, welcome back. This is another seventh grade math video where today's focus is going to be on adding multiple integers together. So that means adding 3 or 4 or 5 different integers together at the same time. Okay, so here's the first one we're going to do together. So what I'd like to do here is kind of put on the screen for us the integers rules, just kind of review them and have them handy in case we need them. So the rules for adding integers are when you have the same sign, whether that means two positives or two negatives, you're going to keep that sign and then add the numbers together. If you have different signs, we're going to keep the sign of the bigger number and then subtract the numbers together. So if you'd like to see a few more details about that or go a little more in depth, check out some of my previous videos where we focus on adding integers and those adding integers rules. Okay, so for this one, the little trick I have for these long strings of integers that I'm trying to add together, what I do is I kind of group them. So I noticed I had -7, -8, and -10. So I'm going to group all my negatives together so that I can use the same sign rule for that. So they're all negative, which means I'm going to end up with a negative there. Then I just need to add 7 plus 8 plus 10, which turns out to be 25. So I'm going to regroup or rewrite that as -25. Now, I don't have anything I can group the positive 13 with because it's my only positive number. So I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite that as a plus 13. Now I would use my different signs rules. So different signs means you keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, since 25 is bigger than 13, I'm going to keep that negative that's in front of the 25. And then I have to subtract the number. So I have to come over here and do 25 minus 13. 5 minus 3 is 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So the final answer to this big long string should end up being -12. Okay, here's our next one. So just like in the last one, what I'm going to do is start by putting together or grouping together the numbers that have the same signs. So in this number, we have a -13 and a -18. So I'm going to start by putting those together using my same sign rules. That means that the answer to that part of it would be negative, since both of those are negative. Then I would need to add 13 plus 18. So I'm going to come over here and do that. 13 plus 18. 3 plus 8 is 11. And then that would be 3. So this would be -31, or at least when I combine those two, that would be 13. Now I don't have anything to combine the +7 with, so I'm just going to have to rewrite that as +7. Now I can use my different sign rules, and those are that I keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, since 31 is bigger than 7, that means I have more negatives than I do positives, so I'm going to keep that as a negative answer. And then I have to do 31 minus 7 to figure out the difference. So since I can't take 7 away from 1, I'm going to regroup this, make it a 2, and make this 11, which would give me 4 here and 2 here. So the answer to this long expression would be -24. Okay, here's our next example. So again, I'm going to group together the ones that have the same sign. In this case, that would be positive. I have 10, 5, and 1 that are all positive. So if I go ahead and add those together, that gives me 16. Okay, so I can go ahead and I can either erase those or cross those off so I know that they're part of it or they're gone. Now I don't have anything to put the -4 with, so I'm just going to keep that as plus -4. Now I can use my different signs rules, which say I'd keep the sign of the bigger number. Since 16 is bigger than 4, that means I'm going to keep the positive for the answer. So I can put a little plus there, or I can just leave it blank, just so I know I've thought about it. And then my next step is to subtract the number. So I'm going to have to do 16 minus 4. So I'd have 2 here and 1 here. So that would be +12 or just 12. Okay, here is our next one. This one has some bigger numbers, -91 plus 65 plus -38 plus 6. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I've been doing, which is grouping together the numbers. So since 91 is negative and 38 is negative, I know that I can use my same sign rules there and get a negative answer. Now I just have to add 91 plus 38 to find out how many negatives I actually have. 1 plus 8 is 9, and 9 plus 3 is 12. So that would be negative 129 for those two numbers. Then for the next two numbers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to put those together. Now, those are both positive, so I can just add 65 plus 6 to get that part, and that would be 11 and a 7. So this would be plus 71. So now that I'm done using my same sign rules, I can use my different sign rules. That means I'd keep the sign of the bigger number. Bigger number is 129, so that means it's going to be a negative answer. And then I have to subtract the numbers. So I'm going to come over here and do 129 minus 71. Well, 9 minus 1 is 8. I can't take 7 away from 2, so I have to regroup them, make that 0, and make this 12, which would make this 5. So my final answer here for this big long chain would be negative 58. Okay, here is our longest example so far, I think. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing where we are keeping, or we're putting together the same signs first. So, oh, and it's our last one for today's video. So that means we're going to keep, I'm going to start with the positives, 15, 85, and 6. So I'm going to go ahead and put those together. 15 plus 85. And now most of you might be going, no, you have to put the 85 on top. It's bigger. That's fine. I could do that. But with when we're adding, it doesn't really matter. 5 plus 5 is 10. And then 1 plus 1 plus 8 is another 10. So we end up with 100. Then if you add the 6 to that, that's 106. So that's going to be all the positive numbers are going to equal 106 when you put them together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this work down. And now I can focus on my negative numbers, -2 and -3. So same sign rules mean that I would be keeping that negative, and then I'd add the numbers together. Well, 2 plus 3 is 5. So this would be my different signs that I'm going to put together to get the final answer. So now when I have different signs, I'm going to keep the sign of the bigger number. 106 is definitely bigger than 5. So I'm going to keep that positive. And then if I subtract the numbers, 106 minus 5 gives me 101. So that would be the final answer to this expression, positive 101 or just 101. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you in another video soon.